Hello again there, folks, and it's your friend Roger Swain. And you may remember me from my hit TV show on PBS, The Victory Garden. And I'm here today for another episode of my new show, Hobo Gardens of the Brooding and Romantic, in beautiful This Isn't Santa Barbara.
I really wanted to make this quick video to, let you guys know. I had several people that prompted me to just make a quick update video today about my health. Several people had contacted me today wondering how I'm doing, and that really lifts my spirits, but at the same time you're very worried about me. My health is not good, okay? You can see me out hiking and joking and laughing and having a good time. And fortunately, I'm a lot like my dad. My dad was on his deathbed and he was cracking jokes. Okay, my dad was one of the best people I ever knew. He was a good dude. And here comes the train. So I'm probably gonna have to cut this short. The railroad cut is right over there. The infamous railroad cut. Mississippi troops, Rufus Dawes, etc., etc. But in any event, guys, thank you so much for the messages today and for the concern. I appreciate it. Pick up the phone. I will always prank you back. And please have a very happy, healthy, and successful rest of your week. Just hanging out on my hobo deck up here in the crow's nest, and my plants have really taken off. And I wanted to make a short video, a little bit of an update. It's early evening here, and we're going to hear a lot of motorcycles going by because it's bike week in Gettysburg, so thousands of bikers are descending upon Gettysburg. But real quick, first and foremost, I wanted to thank my patrons, Beth, Crystal, Jane, Jerry, Lori, Mary Rose, Rick, Sharon, Gary, Robin, all of you guys again this month for being patrons and supporting my mission and my goal to achieve a financial stability where I can begin receiving medical treatments that I need that will not only prolong my life but hopefully save my life. One of the reasons that I wanted to make a quick video was a post that I had posted last night, upside downsides, a hashtag I invented. It seemed like it was sort of a surprise to some people. Now granted, I've been posting videos and posts about my medical conditions now since October of last year, and granted, your worlds don't revolve around Daryl. People have jobs and lives of their own, and I see outside the box, and so I realize that not everybody who is acquainted with me or good friends with me has been in touch with what's been going on with my life or my health. So it seemed like it was a surprise to some people. The vast majority of people who are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis suffer from vision loss in one eye, but predominantly the left eye. And this started occurring with me about a year ago. And on the note of my eyes, for all of you people who donated to my fundraiser for me to get glasses, thank you again. Glenn, Bob, all you guys, Mary Rose, I really appreciate it. With multiple sclerosis, what multiple sclerosis is essentially is that my immune system is confused. And it thinks that the myelin coating on the nerves of my brain is an infection, and you'll notice my vocabulary is different than it was even a year ago or 2 years ago. I have to think about things much longer. It takes me a longer period of time to think about the things I'm going to say before I say them. My immune system, and I can easily lose track, my immune system is eating away and deteriorating the myelin coating on the nerves of my brain, and it has caused me to begin to lose my vocabulary. It has caused me to begin losing my memory. There's been several people in the last year that I've forgotten their names, and these are people that I'm personally acquainted with. I don't just know them from social networks. They're people that have been in my house. I will get mid-sentence, and there could be a word like exacerbate or flabbergasted or exude or whatever, and I can't remember what that word is. Last week when my daughter was here visiting for the week, I couldn't remember what the name of the little black circle in the middle of your eye is, a pupil. Okay, so it's kind of like a stutter in thought, and that's because the coating on the nerves of my brain is being deteriorated, unfortunately. I will walk into my kitchen to make coffee whenever it is that I'm awake, because I also have narcolepsy, so I can't control when it is I'm going to sleep and when I'm not going to sleep. But I'll walk into the kitchen to make a cup of coffee, and I'll forget to put the carafe underneath the coffee pot, and I do that fairly often. And I also forgot what a carafe was called. I'll run a tub of bath water and I'll forget all about it. I'll go back into the bathroom several hours later, I'll see a tub full of water and forgot when I even ran the tub of water. And then I forget why I went into the bathroom in the first place for the second time. So upsides, downsides, those are some of the downsides with multiple sclerosis. About 7 years ago, I started losing the feeling in my right upper thigh between my knee and my hip. And it just started out as a small spot. And then I went to my doctor for an arm injury. I was doing some landscaping, and they took my blood pressure and they took my vitals, and they decided to keep me there for observation. In any event, they ran some tests on me. They gave me an MRI, and they found lesions on my brain. And I was sent to a neurologist. This is just before I moved to Gettysburg. I was sent to a neurologist and both of these doctors determined that I had multiple sclerosis. My doctor came in for a follow-up. He came into the room and he was like really solemn and he was really quiet, and he's like, I really hate to give you this bad news, but we found you have multiple sclerosis. And I laughed at him and I was like, are you shitting me? You got to be kidding me. There's nothing wrong with me. And he told me, he goes, these are the things that are going to start happening to you. And 5 years later, these things that my doctor predicted would happen to me are now happening to me. One other coincidental statistic is that the majority of people who get multiple sclerosis get it around the age of 50. And I just turned 50 last year. So memory loss, the loss of jargon when it's in play, forgetting people's names, forgetting what I was doing when I'm walking into a room. Those things have started to occur. Those are some of the downsides. The upsides are days like today, where my leg, getting back to my leg, I just got off track, had an MS moment. Okay, so over the past 5 years, my leg between my knee and my hip has completely lost feeling. My leg between my knee and my foot on my right leg is normal. It's fine. I have feeling in it, but I can't feel this up here at all. It's gone. You could bayonet me with a Springfield and I wouldn't even feel it between my knee and my hip. But my leg still works half the time. It works normally, but I'm very much more cautious these days. I walk with one of my hiking walking sticks most of the time. Everybody has their good days and their bad days, and don't for a second think that I don't realize that there's a lot of people in the world that have it a lot worse than I do. Several of you watching this video right now, let me clean this lens. several of you watching this video right now are new friends of mine and acquaintances of mine that I've met through multiple sclerosis, and you also have multiple sclerosis. And a lot of you guys have it a lot worse than I do. And so I'm glad that we can bounce things off of each other supportively and in regard to, you know, coping mechanisms in our daily lives and how much our lives have changed. So, and again, I forgot where I was going with it, and that's pretty normal. If you watch my videos most of the time, I edit out a great deal of my videos because I lose my train of thought, forget where I was going with something. Upsides, downsides. With every downside, always try to look for the upside in something. There's an upside in anything. So my upside for the day was a knock on my door, okay? And usually once a week, my closest confidant, my best friend, my dear, kind hiking companion and Civil War messmate, my buddy Gary, otherwise known as the Professor, knocked on my door. He came over and he said, you know, hey pal, I just wanted to see how you're doing. How are you feeling today? And it's always nice to hear those words. Practice them. You know, if you know somebody who's ill, I'll tell you what, one of the best things that you could ask a person who you know is dealing with a great medical hurdle is just ask them how they're doing, you know. And I know I can count on Gary once a week to knock on my door just out of the blue and come on over, and the first thing out of his mouth is, you know, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And then he asks me, do you need anything? You know? So always do your best to, I implore you to always do your best to try to see outside the box. I don't know what any of you are dealing with. I know what a lot of you are dealing with, but a lot of you, I don't know what you're dealing with. But I've done my best over the years to try to see outside the box and realize that I don't know what people that I'm acquainted with are dealing with. And so I'm glad that there's people like some of you and my buddy Gary who knocked on my door and he said, hey, you know, I'm going out of town. He's headed down to the battlefields down in Spotsylvania to do some of his historical research, and he's headed down to Spotsylvania for a couple of days. And so he wanted to see if I needed anything for the store, and I certainly did, and I usually do. Given the fact that my diagnosis, March of 2018, the bikers are in town, March of 2018, I was granted my disability in about a week. And the two doctors who were tasked by the Department of Social Security to analyze my conditions in a medical facility up in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, they confirmed my diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. They decided that my debilitating condition caused by hereditary hemochromatosis, which is toxic iron overload disease, is continuing. My muscle virus called chronic costochondritis, which was caused from an injury when I was working during Hurricane Katrina, that is also, they decided, a continuing disability. But they confirmed my MS, and they also tacked on and diagnosed me with narcolepsy, which really surprised me. I was, you know, at the time I figured I was sleeping so erratically because of my other conditions. In any event, so that's what's been going on. So my sight in my left eye has been blurred out for quite some time. This isn't new news. I'm not trying to offend anybody because, you know, like I said, your world doesn't revolve around Daryl. That would be silly, any more than my world revolves around yours. But if you've missed it, what's been going on with me for the past year and a half, you know, this is just kind of an update for some people. I've made several videos about my illnesses, and I really kind of thought that people really didn't want to hear it. a lot of people don't watch my videos. Those people who do, I consider my close friends and very sincere people. So thank you for watching. You know who you are. My friend Gary was here and just a bit ago and took me to the grocery store. Given where I was going with that was, given the diagnosis that had happened March of last year, I no longer drive. So I have to rely on one person to run all of my errands. Most of the time I'm here by myself. And that's simply because you all have jobs. You all have your own lives. But for people who've stopped by, and there's been a lot of you have stopped by. Mary Rose, I see Gary all the time. Heather and Aaron, you guys stop by. The list goes on. I appreciate it very much. Just looking in on me. So any of you out there from coast to coast and across the Atlantic, way up north, you know, if you know people who are ill, you know, it's the nicest thing to hear is just ask them how they're feeling. Ask them, rather than saying you should do this or you should do that, you know, ask them, is there anything I can do for you? Do you need a ride to the store? Okay, because you could really light somebody's day up. And so that was my upside of the day, is that, you know, Gary just stopped by out of the blue and he's like, hey man, do you need anything? How you doing? Okay, so mental note, you know, we never really know what's going on with each other. Everybody can't keep up with everybody else, but the sight of my left eye has been failing for some time. I've posted a lot of videos on the internet. You know, boo-hoo, poor Daryl. Okay, this would be very hard for many of you to understand. It wouldn't be very hard for my pagan friends to understand. But I look at death and I look at life very differently, in a very unorthodox fashion that most people don't. And I've believed the things and understood life and the universe very differently than most people for the vast majority of my life. So little food for thought in all of that, but that's just a little bit about multiple sclerosis. What's been going on with me. I'm losing the use of my right leg. I'm losing the vision in my left eye. When my buddy Gary gets back next week, he will be taking me to the eye doctor so that I can get a pair of glasses. I have been incredibly impoverished all of last year, okay? And side note, me being broke and poor and hungry and almost being evicted was not wholly caused by me being unemployed and applying for disability. There was another factor where somebody lied to my face and they screwed me over pretty good. I almost became homeless because of that person. And I ate ramen noodles for 10 months because that person gave me their word, broke their word, lied to my face, and that was my rent money. And that person did that to me. And if you're friends with that person, you're no friend of mine. And that's what my gods command. Okay? The Christian gods have 10 commandments. Okay? And if you break those commandments, you don't go to your heaven. We have over 100 commandments, okay, in the old ways, in a religion that's been around for thousands of years before Christianity. And if I break those rules of what my All-Father tells me, I don't go to my afterlife, okay? In any event, that's a topic for another video, but sometime in the future.
And that's it for this edition of Hobo Gardens of the Brooding and Romantic. Shot live here from This Isn't Santa Barbara.